and let's just throw Brian and Danny in there for good measure. Putting something like this together is no small feat, and in my very limited perspective, I was able to see just how much planning went into it, and I think that deserves a round of applause. What's up, Kevin? How you doing over there? Sweat levels okay? I think this is the closest I'm ever going to come to a Friars Club roast, so buckle up. Let me introduce myself. My name is Brendan, and I'm Kevin's best man. And that's fitting because I have known Kevin longer than any of these other groomsmen punks. So I'm glad we finally got that settled. I met Kevin in the spring of 1988.
Right here.
He was fresh out of the womb, and we ended up becoming roommates. I had previously been living there on my own. Well, that's not entirely true. I had these two other roommates. They were a little bit older, but it was actually a pretty sweet setup. They paid for everything. They kept the place clean. Bathed me, fed me. It was great. And then all of a sudden, this little weasel comes along and he starts stealing my thunder. But after several petitions to have him evicted were denied, I decided I might as well make the best of it. Now, this is going to come as a shock for those of you who didn't know him back then, but Kevin was a demon child. He had a habit of being somewhat uncontrollable, and I'll give you an example. We were in Disney World, my dad, Kevin and I, and the hotel we were staying at had this swanky pool that was bordered on one side by this fake rock wall that eventually turned into a waterfall. Kevin took one look at it, and he said to himself, I'm going to scale that thing. He was just waiting for the opportunity to arise. And it did. One night, we were back there. The pool was very obviously closed. There was no one else in sight. And Kevin kind of shuffles over, gets himself set, and he's looking over at my dad like this. And my dad's like, no, Kevin, you can't do that. It's against the rules. Besides, the pool is closed. There's no one here to save you when you inevitably fall in the water. Come back over here, you monster. It fell on deaf ears. So he gets going. He's got the devil's grin plastered on his face. And there was no ledge, mind you. I don't know how he did it. It's actually still kind of incredible to me. But it became clear that he was going for it. And my dad was furious. And when my dad gets furious, the tongue comes out. And when the tongue comes out, so too does the wrath of God. Kevin! Kevin, unfortunately, was past the point of no return. He was a wiry kid, but he didn't really have the deftness of foot to be able to maneuver this thing. So back he flops, fully clothed, into the pool. Pandemonium ensued. I can't quite remember the aftermath because I was in second grade, but you get the idea. He was a pain. So I decided to take it upon myself to instill some discipline in the young lad. Now I know if you were to ask him, he'd compare growing up with me as an older brother to being a prisoner at Abu Ghraib around 2003. But I actually think I was pretty fair. While it may have seemed like torture, there was actually a legitimate life lesson behind everything that I did. For instance, when I would cut out pictures from magazines of random couples, hand them to Kevin and tell him that those were his real parents, I wasn't being senselessly cruel. I was teaching him to appreciate what he had. When we would play one-on-one lacrosse against each other, no equipment, and I was allowed to slash him as hard as I could from head to toe with impunity, whereas if he so much as grazed a cuticle of mine, I would throw him to the ground and beat him without mercy. I wasn't just using my considerable size advantage to make him feel subservient. I was reminding him that sometimes life isn't fair. And when I stood idly by and watched friends of mine force feed him live minnows or stuff him into garbage cans at lacrosse camps, there was no lesson behind that. I didn't want to look soft in front of my buddies. That one's on me. Hold on. I didn't get out of it scot-free. After breaking my left arm not once but twice, I would say Kevin exacted some small revenge. Besides, it was only a matter of time before this freak mutation occurred, where Kevin gained about 25 pounds of muscle, and I lost about 50 pounds of muscle. So once we'd established that I wouldn't beat Kevin up because I was no longer able to, and Kevin wouldn't beat me up because he had a sense of propriety and human decency, we were finally able to pave the way to becoming best friends, and we have been ever since. Now, this newfound toughness was something that Kevin carried through into other aspects of his life. In high school, when we'd be out at night and I would draw his attention to a young lady that I found attractive, it wasn't uncommon for him to say something like, I don't know, I could definitely beat her in an arm wrestling match. Which I always found odd, because A, yeah, obviously, and B, was he saying that he didn't want to be able to beat her in an arm wrestling match? I was confused. So when I went on one of my many trips to Washington and Lee to meet this new girl he'd been hanging out with, I was half expecting to see Xena Warrior Princess. So imagine my surprise when the person I met was Kate. Kate. I'm so glad that Kevin was able to find somebody who orders the same things that I do at restaurants. It took a while, but I knew you guys would get into that. It's pretty telling when the only mean thing people can say about you is that you really like cookies. You've been nothing short of incredible for Kevin. Your patience and your understanding are unrivaled, and you hardly bat an eyelash anymore when the two of us get into screaming matches in public, which I really appreciate. Kevin, like I said before, you're my best friend. It was made abundantly clear last night that you're fiercely loyal and your heart is the size of this room. We spent an inordinate amount of time together ever since we graduated college, and I wouldn't have it any other way, and I'm not sure where I would be today if that weren't the case. You've done more for me than I really have time to recount to everybody here, and you've been pretty cool about the fact that I've attempted to steal every one of your friends for your entire life. What's more is you get to spend the rest of your life with someone whose kindness is so disarming, and whose warmth is so infectious, and whose habit of throwing up peace signs in pictures I will never stop commenting on. Hashtag keep Caitlin weird. Ryan and Danny and I, we've never had a sister. And we're just so lucky to be able to say that it's you. So everybody, please raise a glass. To my favorite couple, to Kevin and Kate, he's your problem now. Cilantro.